Did you know that 58% of leaders say they've made decisions they later regretted because they were too emotional? Or that emotional missteps in leadership can lead to a 23% decrease in team productivity? These aren't just numbers, they're a wake-up call. Emotions are powerful, but when they start steering the ship, things can go off course fast. As a leader, your emotions can either be your greatest asset or your biggest liability. The difference lies in how you manage them. In this video, we're going to explore the often overlooked ways emotions can hijack your leadership, costing you respect, efficiency, and success. But it's not all doom and gloom. By the end of this video, you'll have practical strategies to turn emotional pitfalls into leadership power. We'll dive into some surprising truths, like how past experiences can unknowingly influence your behavior today, or how anger can actually fuel positive change if you know how to use it. We'll also challenge some common leadership myths and show you how to stay rational even when emotions are running high. Ready to take control of your leadership journey? Let's get started. Chapter 1. The Silent Saboteur. How emotions hijack leadership. Emotions can be tricky in leadership. Often, they sneak up on us, affecting decisions without us even realizing it. Research shows that leaders who let emotions dictate their choices tend to make poorer decisions. According to a study published in the Harvard Business Review, emotional reactivity can reduce decision-making effectiveness by up to 31%. Imagine the impact that has on a team. A great leader learns to recognize when emotions are taking the wheel. The key is to pause before reacting. For instance, when something frustrating happens, count to 10 before responding. It sounds simple, but it works. Neuroscientists have found that this brief pause allows the rational part of the brain to catch up with the emotional part, leading to better outcomes. Another strategy is to develop emotional awareness. This involves recognizing your emotions as they arise. You can start by keeping a journal. Write down how you feel in different situations and what triggers those feelings. Over time, you'll notice patterns and be better prepared to manage your responses. You can also implement emotional audits in your leadership routine. This means regularly checking in on how your emotions might be influencing your decisions. Ask yourself, am I making this choice based on facts or feelings? Doing this regularly can help you separate emotion from logic. Finally, consider the advice from Daniel Goleman, author of Emotional Intelligence. He suggests that emotional self-control is one of the strongest indicators of leadership success. By training yourself to be aware of your emotions, you take the first step toward not letting them sabotage your leadership. Chapter 2. Emotional Echoes. Breaking free from past triggers. We all have past experiences that shape us. Sometimes, these experiences create emotional triggers that can influence our behavior, often without us knowing it. In leadership, these triggers can be especially harmful. For instance, a past conflict might cause a leader to avoid necessary confrontation, harming team dynamics. To break free from these emotional echoes, start by identifying your triggers. Reflect on past situations that have caused strong emotional reactions. Once you've identified these triggers, you can begin to challenge them. Ask yourself if the reaction is appropriate for the current situation or if it's a remnant of the past. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, techniques can be helpful here. One effective method is to reframe negative thoughts. For example, if a past failure is making you hesitate in making a decision, remind yourself that every situation is different. Failure in the past doesn't mean failure in the future. Another strategy is mindfulness. According to a study in the Journal of Management, leaders who practice mindfulness are better at managing emotional triggers. Mindfulness helps you stay present, reducing the power of past experiences over current behavior. Try spending a few minutes each day focusing on your breathing and bringing your mind back to the present whenever it starts to wander. Finally, consider seeking feedback from trusted colleagues. Sometimes, others can see our emotional patterns more clearly than we can. Ask them if they notice any behaviors that seem driven by past experiences. This external perspective can be invaluable in breaking free from old emotional patterns. If you're finding this video useful, subscribe and let's get back to the exciting stuff. Chapter 3. Mind over mood. Crafting a rational leadership style. Leadership requires a balance between emotion and reason. However, Leaning too heavily on emotions can lead to inconsistent decision-making. A rational leadership style ensures that decisions are made based on logic, not fleeting feelings. One strategy to achieve this is to adopt a decision-making framework. For instance, the OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act, is a simple yet effective method to slow down the decision process and ensure it's rooted in rational thought. This framework was originally developed for military strategy but has since been adopted by leaders in various fields. Data-driven decision-making is another powerful tool. According to a survey by PwC, companies that are highly data-driven are 3 times more likely to report significant improvements in decision-making. As a leader, you should gather relevant data before making any major decisions. This reduces the chance that emotions will cloud your judgment. It's also helpful to cultivate a habit of seeking diverse opinions. When you involve others in the decision-making process, you get a broader perspective. This can help counteract any emotional bias you might have. A study in the Journal of Applied Psychology found that leaders who seek input from their teams are more likely to make well-rounded decisions. Lastly, develop the discipline to delay decisions when emotions are high. If you feel particularly emotional about a situation, give yourself some time to cool off before deciding. This practice of sleeping on it is supported by research, which shows that decision-making improves when you give yourself time to reflect. By focusing on these strategies, you can craft a leadership style that's grounded in reason, ensuring that your decisions are consistent and effective. Chapter 4. Emotional Alchemy. Transforming negative emotions into positive leadership energy. Negative emotions like anger, frustration, or fear are often seen as obstacles in leadership. But what if you could turn these emotions into powerful forces for positive change? Emotional alchemy is about doing just that, transforming negativity into productive energy. One way to start is by embracing anger as a motivator. Anger, when managed well, can drive action. According to Peter Bregman in his book Leading with Emotional Courage, anger can be a powerful tool for leadership if channeled properly. Instead of letting anger simmer and disrupt your judgment, use it to fuel a constructive response. For example, if a project fails, use your frustration to motivate the team to find solutions, not to dwell on the setback. Reframing is another powerful strategy. This involves taking a negative emotion and finding a new way to look at it. For instance, if you feel overwhelmed by a challenging task, reframe that feeling as excitement for the opportunity to grow. Research in psychology shows that reframing stress as a challenge rather than a threat can lead to better performance and less burnout. Also, consider the power of gratitude. It may sound simple, but studies show that practicing gratitude can reduce negative emotions. A study published in the Journal of Positive Psychology found that gratitude practices can decrease feelings of resentment by as much as 30%. Start by identifying something positive in a challenging situation. This shift in focus can turn frustration into a sense of purpose. Another technique is to channel fear into preparation. Fear is a natural response to uncertainty, but it doesn't have to be paralyzing. Successful leaders use fear as a signal to prepare more thoroughly. As Mark Twain once said, courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. Use your fear as a guide to identify areas where more preparation or contingency planning is needed. Lastly, physical activity is an underrated tool for transforming negative emotions. Exercise has been shown to reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression significantly. Even a short walk can clear your mind and shift your emotional state. Encourage your team to take breaks and move around, especially when tensions are high. This can turn a negative atmosphere into a more energized and focused one. Chapter 5. The Empathy Trap. Balancing compassion with objectivity. Empathy is often celebrated as a crucial leadership trait, and for good reason. It helps leaders connect with their teams and build trust. However, too much empathy can lead to over-identification with others' emotions, clouding your objectivity and decision-making. Balancing empathy with clear boundaries is essential. One strategy is to practice what's called compassionate detachment. This means caring for your team's well-being without becoming emotionally entangled in their problems. Brené Brown, in her book Dare to Lead, emphasizes the importance of clear boundaries for maintaining both compassion and objectivity. By setting limits on how much you involve yourself emotionally, you can remain supportive without losing your leadership clarity. Another approach is to separate empathy from sympathy. Empathy is understanding others' feelings, sympathy is sharing them. As a leader, aim to understand and acknowledge your team's emotions, but avoid getting pulled into their emotional state. This allows you to provide support while still making objective decisions. Using objective data in decision-making is another way to balance empathy. When faced with a tough decision that affects your team, rely on facts and figures alongside your understanding of their feelings. A study in the Journal of Business Ethics suggests that data-driven leaders are better at making fair and balanced decisions, even in emotionally charged situations. It's also useful to practice active listening without immediately reacting. When a team member comes to you with a problem, listen fully without jumping to offer solutions or share in their emotional response. This pause gives you time to consider the situation from a more detached perspective, allowing for a more thoughtful and balanced response. Lastly, encourage a culture of shared responsibility. While empathy is important, so is empowering your team to manage their own emotions and challenges. Leaders should provide support but also promote self-reliance. As the saying goes, give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. By fostering this kind of independence, you help your team grow stronger while maintaining your own emotional balance. Chapter 6. The Rational Rebel. Challenging emotional conformity in leadership. In leadership, there's often pressure to conform emotionally, especially in group settings. This can lead to groupthink, where decisions are made based on a desire for harmony rather than the best outcomes. As a leader, it's crucial to resist this pressure and think independently, even when emotions are running high. One effective strategy is to play the role of a devil's advocate in discussions. This means intentionally challenging ideas and decisions, even if they seem agreeable. Research from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that when leaders question the group's emotional consensus, it often leads to more innovative and effective solutions. By pushing back against the tide, you encourage critical thinking and reduce the risk of emotional conformity. Another tactic is to cultivate a diverse team. Diversity in thought, background, and experience naturally disrupts emotional conformity. A study by McKinsey & Company showed that diverse teams are 35% more likely to outperform non-diverse ones. This is partly because diversity introduces a range of perspectives that can challenge the emotional status quo. It's also helpful to create a culture where questioning is encouraged. As a leader, make it clear that dissenting opinions are valued. Encourage your team to express their thoughts, even if they go against the grain. This approach not only leads to better decisions but also empowers individuals to think and act independently. To further combat emotional conformity, make decisions based on principles rather than emotions. When faced with a difficult choice, refer back to your core values and the organization's mission. This can help you stay grounded and resist the emotional pull of the moment. As Simon Sinek puts it in Start With Why, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Staying true to your why can keep you focused on rational, rather than emotional, decision-making. Chapter 7. The Calm Within the Storm. Mastering emotional resilience. Leadership often involves navigating through crises and high-pressure situations. Emotional resilience is the key to staying calm and effective, even when everything around you is chaotic. But how do you build and maintain this resilience? Start by developing a strong sense of self-awareness. Emotional resilience begins with knowing your triggers and understanding how you typically react under stress. The American Psychological Association highlights self-awareness as a critical factor in emotional resilience. By regularly reflecting on your emotional responses, you can identify patterns and prepare yourself to handle them better in the future. Another strategy is to cultivate a positive mindset. Optimism is a powerful tool in building resilience. According to Martin Seligman, a pioneer in positive psychology, resilient leaders tend to view challenges as temporary and surmountable. When faced with adversity, remind yourself that setbacks are part of the process, not the end of the road. This mindset shift can significantly boost your ability to remain calm and focused. Physical health also plays a vital role in emotional resilience. Regular exercise, a balanced diet, and adequate sleep are all essential. Studies show that leaders who prioritize their physical well-being are better equipped to handle stress. For instance, a study in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology found that physically active leaders are less likely to experience burnout and more likely to maintain emotional stability under pressure. Join our journey by subscribing to the channel and never miss out on our latest uploads.